In our modern world, we live connected lives, our memories, messages, and entertainment stored in a place we call the cloud. But this cloud is not a wispy formation in the sky. It is something far more tangible, vast, humming buildings known as data centers, filled with powerful computers that work tirelessly. These digital fortresses are the engines of our age, processing the incredible flow of information that defines our society. They allow us to speak with loved ones across oceans and access the whole of human knowledge with a simple touch. Yet, like all of nature's great engines, they have an immense and often hidden appetite, a deep thirst that connects them directly to the natural world. To prevent their powerful supercomputers from overheating, these centers require constant cooling. The most efficient way to achieve this is with water, and not just any water, but immense quantities of pure fresh water. A single large facility can consume millions of gallons every day, a staggering amount that rivals the needs of a small city. This incredible demand places a direct and heavy strain on local water supplies. This is a profound concern, especially in regions where water is already a precious and scarce resource. In the arid landscapes of the American West, for instance, diverting such vast amounts of water for technology can mean less is available for homes, farms, and the delicate ecosystems that depend upon it. The water used must be exceptionally pure to avoid damaging the sensitive cooling equipment. This often means it is drawn directly from municipal sources or underground aquifers, the very same sources that sustain local communities and wildlife. The problem is magnified because the number of these data centers is growing at an explosive rate. Projections show their water consumption could increase exponentially in the coming years, creating a potential crisis. We are witnessing a new and formidable competitor for our planet's most vital resource, one that pits the demands of our digital existence against the fundamental needs of the living world. It is a quiet conflict, happening out of sight, but with consequences that could ripple through entire regions. This competition for water can have devastating effects. When aquifers are depleted faster than they can be replenished by rainfall, the land above can subside, and wells that have served families for generations can run dry. In places like Texas, where groundwater regulations can be quite relaxed, the rapid construction of new data centers proceeds without a full accounting of its future impact on the state's water plan. We must begin to ask difficult questions about balance and priority. How do we weigh the benefits of instant data against the long-term health of our rivers, our wetlands, and the security of our water supply for future generations? The answer is not simple, but the conversation must begin now, before the wells truly run dry. The insatiable thirst of data centers is matched only by their hunger for energy. Keeping millions of computers running day and night requires a colossal amount of electricity, making power the largest operational cost for these facilities. To keep expenses low, companies often build their centers in places where electricity is cheap. Unfortunately, the cheapest power often comes from the oldest and most polluting sources. This economic reality creates a direct link between the clean, sterile world of digital information and the dark, carbon-heavy legacy of fossil fuels. A significant portion of the energy that powers our online lives is generated by burning coal, a practice with a long and destructive history. This reliance on coal power carries a heavy environmental price tag. Coal is a fossil fuel, the compressed remains of ancient life, often mined from what were once vibrant swamplands and lush forests. To get to it, entire landscapes are stripped away, destroying habitats and leaving behind scarred earth. The process of mining can pollute nearby rivers and streams with harmful chemicals, affecting aquatic life and the quality of drinking water for miles around. It is a brutal exchange, the permanent destruction of a living ecosystem to fuel the temporary needs of our machines. The damage done at the source is only the beginning of the story, a prelude to the even greater harm that follows. When coal is burned in power plants, it releases a cocktail of pollutants into the atmosphere. Among these are greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, which are the primary drivers of climate change, warming our planet and disrupting weather patterns across the globe. But it also releases sulfur dioxide, which causes acid rain, and toxic heavy metals like mercury, which can accumulate in the food chain, poisoning fish and the creatures that eat them, including ourselves. The very air we breathe becomes laden with fine particulate matter, which can lead to serious respiratory and cardiovascular diseases. The clean, efficient world we experience on our screens is therefore powered by a process that dirties our air and sickens our planet. The irony is profound. The technology we herald as the future is tethering us more tightly to a power source from the past, one we know we must abandon for the health of our world. As the demand for data grows, so too does the pressure to keep these coal-fired plants running, or even to build new power sources that rely on fossil fuels. In Texas, a massive new data center project is being powered by its own dedicated natural gas plant. While cleaner than coal, it still locks us into a cycle of carbon emissions. We must recognize that the true cost of our digital convenience is being paid by our planet's atmosphere, our forests, and the integrity of our ancient landscapes. The explosive growth of the data industry has triggered a modern-day gold rush, but instead of precious metals, the prize is land. To build these sprawling digital factories, tech corporations need vast tracts of flat, accessible land, preferably in areas with easy access to cheap power and abundant water. This has created an intense and often aggressive competition for property, putting immense pressure on local communities and private landowners. People who have lived on their land for generations may suddenly find themselves in the path of a multi-billion-dollar development, facing offers and pressures from some of the wealthiest companies in the world. This is a daunting prospect for any family or small community. Landowners should be aware that these large corporations do not always play on a level field. They possess enormous resources and influence, which they can use to their advantage. They often lobby politicians and local governments, seeking special treatment, tax breaks, and favorable zoning regulations that smooth the way for their projects. In some cases, policies are created specifically to make it easier for companies to acquire land, potentially at the expense of existing residents. These special rules, sometimes presented as being for the good of the local economy, can undermine the rights of landowners and make them vulnerable to land grabs, where they feel they have no choice but to sell. It is crucial for residents to remain vigilant and informed about what is happening in their own backyards. Pay close attention to proposed changes in local land use policies or new economic incentive packages being offered by your town or state. These are often the first signs that a large-scale development is being considered. Communities must come together to understand the full implications of such a project. Will it truly bring long-term prosperity, or will it strain your water supply, burden your power grid, and change the character of your home forever? These questions must be asked early and often, before irreversible decisions are made and the bulldozers arrive. The promise of jobs and tax revenue can be very persuasive, but these benefits must be carefully weighed against the permanent costs. A data center may provide some local employment, but it can also consume public resources like water and energy at a disproportionate rate, sometimes leaving local residents to foot the bill through higher utility costs. A law passed in Utah, for example, was specifically designed to protect residential ratepayers from the high energy costs of new data centers. This shows that the risks are real. Your land is more than just a commodity. It is part of a community and an ecosystem. Protecting it requires awareness, unity, and the courage to question the promises of powerful outsiders. We stand at a crossroads where the boundless potential of the digital age meets the finite resources of our natural world. The hidden costs of our data, the water drained from our rivers, the coal torn from our swamps, and the land taken from our communities are becoming too significant to ignore. The pollution that clouds our skies and the strain on our vital resources are not abstract problems for a distant future. They are immediate threats to the health of our ecosystems and the well-being of our societies. We have a fundamental responsibility to confront these challenges, not just for ourselves, but as stewards for the generations that will follow us. The time for passive acceptance is over. The time for active stewardship is now. Protecting our shared inheritance of clean water, fertile land, and a stable climate is not an obstacle to progress. It is the very foundation upon which all true and lasting progress is built. We must demand more from the companies that build and operate these data centers. They must innovate not only in processing power, but also in efficiency and sustainability. We should encourage technologies like closed-loop cooling systems that recycle water instead of constantly consuming it. And we must insist that new facilities are powered by renewable energy sources like solar and wind, not fossil fuels. Transparency is key. Communities have a right to know how much water and energy a proposed facility will use before it is ever approved. As individuals and as communities, we hold more power than we often realize. It is essential to stay watchful and engaged with local governance. Attend town hall meetings, follow the actions of your elected officials, and be wary of new policies that offer unchecked incentives for industrial development. When we see companies lobbying for special rules that could harm our environment or disadvantage landowners, we must speak up. By working together, residents can form a powerful, unified voice that lawmakers cannot easily dismiss. Advocacy groups are already calling for sensible regulations, such as setting strong water efficiency standards for data centers, and we must support their efforts. Ultimately, this is a matter of balance and foresight. The wonders of technology are undeniable, but they cannot come at the cost of the planet that sustains us. We must cultivate a deeper respect for our natural resources, recognizing that they are not limitless. Let us be careful with our water, thoughtful about our land, and protective of the environment that is our only home. By staying informed, asking hard questions, and demanding accountability, we can help guide our society toward a future where technological advancement and ecological integrity are not in conflict, but walk forward hand in hand. Our shared future depends on the choices we make today.